He's a self-proclaimed rebel. He has a no-nonsense approach to leadership. And he's transformed the lives of the athletes that learned to win on the world's biggest stage. And many of those athletes went on to mentor and leave a legacy of their own. And that's the generational sport of skiing and snowboarding. As a television personality, his voice will be ever tied to the biggest moments of the sport, whether it was 92 or in Nagano. It's his voice, his call, telling us what we were seeing and how special it was. He has a gift. He has a gift for teaching, but he has a gift of coaching without you knowing he's doing it. That's the magic of a great coach. Somebody who guides you emotionally, physically, calms you down in the starting gate, picks you up after a defeat, and gives you that little ounce of confidence to go bigger, farther, faster than the competition. This is an amazing story, and I know you'll all understand.
Legendary freestyle coach Park Smalley, considered by many as the father of freestyle skiing, played a formative role in both the development of athletes and in the sport itself. From the early days of freestyle in the 1970s up through the growth of the sport in the 1990s, Smalley was one of its greatest influencers, playing a role in World Cup success of U.S. athletes and in helping evolve the fledgling sport into the Olympics. Smalley's passion began as an athlete in the early to mid-70s. He competed on the Freestyle Pro Tour and performed in shows.
When freestyle first got going, we innovated here in the States. You know, in those days it was the hot dog image, the wild and crazy things that were going on. Come up with a new trick, nobody was hiding from anybody at that point. Everybody said, hey, come on over and check this out. We come over and check it all out. Next week everybody would be doing the same trick in the ballet course, so that was the great part about it.
In 1976, he founded the Great Western Freestyle Ski Camps in Steamboat Springs and Mount Hood, which quickly became the hotspot for aspiring freestyle skiers. As freestyle began to organize on a national scale in the 1980s, Smalley was named coach of the U.S. junior team, and his success led him to become the first head coach of the U.S. freestyle ski team in 1983. His influence in that role over the next decade would be profound.
A big part of my job at that point became more of a sports psychologist. It was getting their head in the game so they could perform on a week-to-week basis. Now, you can be the best guy in the world on practice day, but when the lights goes on and the music comes up, if you can't put it down in 28 seconds, then you come back the next week and try it again.
From 1984 to 1990, he led his team to 7 Nations Cup titles. His athletes won a remarkable 114 World Cup victories. But he also knew that to gain true global respect, the sport needed a place in the Olympics.
Graceful flips, fearless leaps. As far as a spectator sport and spectator appeal, it has a tremendous value that way, and I think that's what makes it so exciting.
His influence helped lead freestyle as a demonstration event at the 1988 Winter Games in Calgary, and ultimately into full Olympic status in 1992 and 1994. After retirement as a coach, he served as a sport analyst for CBS Sports, watching his athletes Donna Weinbrecht and Nilsson Carmichael win medals in the Moguls debut in 1992. Smalley has been widely honored. Steamboat Springs, the mountain community that was the epicenter of his freestyle world, named 2 training venues after him, and in 2003, he was inducted into the Colorado Snow Sports Hall of Fame. For his mentorship of athletes and pioneering of the sport of freestyle skiing, Park Smalley is inducted into the U.S. Ski and Snowboard Hall of Fame.
Here in the Olympic Village of Lake Placid, our country's highest snow sports award, the Hall of Fame Medal of Honor, and confer upon you from this day forward induction into the U.S. Ski and Snowboard Hall of Fame, where your accomplishments will forever be remembered.
Wow. You know what? I got to start off by just saying, Jimbo, are you sure you didn't have a teleprompter behind those glasses? That was just way too much, wasn't that? That was great. So, no teleprompter for me, and hopefully just a few words of gratitude. Wow. What an honor to be mentioned in the same breath by so many legends in this room tonight. It's really pretty amazing. Special thanks out to Justin and the Hall of Fame for all that you guys do, and you really do a spectacular job, and thanks so much for that. And also a special thanks to Chris Parks and the Fuzzman for their relentless efforts in getting me on the ballot. Thanks, boys. I appreciate it. Who would have thought? Southern California boy, never saw snow, never even was on skis until he was 16 years old. It was 1968. I'll never forget. My dad came home and said, "All right, kids, we're moving to Washington State. Your grandmother's not doing very well, and we've got to go up there to help her out." And I said, "Okay, great. When? This summer?" He said, "No, this weekend." I said, "Seriously?" He said, "Seriously," and he was. That weekend, 4 kids, a Buick station wagon hooked up to a 16-foot trailer, and we left sunny Southern California to Spokane, never to return. In 1968, Spokane was experiencing one of the heaviest winters they'd ever seen. My dad mentioned, "You might want to try the skiing thing." And being a rebellious teenager, of course, I said, "Are you kidding me? No way." He said, "No problem. You can just shovel snow this winter until you figure things out." So sure enough, halfway through the winter, the snow was well above my head. And I paused for a second, and I said, maybe I want to give this skiing thing a try. From that point on, I was hooked. 1971, I graduated from high school, went on to Spokane Falls Community College for 6 weeks. And after about 5.5, I was sitting in the class, and I just couldn't get my mind off of making turns on the slope. So my college career ended before it ever got started. But unbeknownst to me, my skiing career had just begun. 1972. Where's that teleprompter? I moved to Utah, taught skiing at Solitude on the weekends and skied Alta during the week. And that was before Snowboard was opened. So we used to take the high traverse over and poach a bunch of powder on the way down. It was killer snow, but we couldn't wait to get to the bottom to build a jump and start doing flips. That's right, flips. I'll never forget my first flip on snow. I was with a guy, I don't remember his name, but he thought he knew what he was doing. He said, "This is what you got to do. I want you to ski into that jump as fast as you can. When you get to the top, throw everything backwards as hard as you can, and you're guaranteed to get around." I said, "That sounds pretty easy." Well, I did, 2.5 times. And sure, I was so thankful that it was 3.5 feet of that Utah powder, that's for sure. 1974, Sun Valley, my very first hot dog event. And I was one of the spectators in the beginning on the mogul event on exhibition. And I'll never forget the wild and crazy guys skiing down that run, having so much fun doing what they love to do. I was a jumper after my first 2.5 backward somersault. And I entered my first aerial competition. And my forte at that time was the front flyaway, which was a big front somersault with lots of air. And I did pretty well on it, but when I landed, my ski popped off. And so, unfortunately, I was DQ'd. I was pretty disappointed, but one of the judges at that time came up to me and said, "Hey, kid, if you would have stuck that jump, top 3 for sure." I said, okay. 1975. I decided if I was going to make a thing out of this hot dog skiing, I better train full time. So I moved to Lake Tahoe and joined the, what was it called back then? It was called the World Freestyle Training Center, hosted by Wild Bill O'Leary and J.C. John Clendenin, who, by the way, is a member of the Hall of Fame. While I was there, I was approached by a young man named Chris Thorne, who went on to become the best mogul skiers in the world. And he said to me, "Park, we got an opportunity to go to Bariloche, Argentina, and do ski shows for the Argentine Tourism Board." I said, "Tell me about it." He says, "It's a pretty easy deal. We get to go down there, ski around, look cool, do a couple of helicopters, maybe a flip or two, and get paid." And get paid. I'm hooked again. I said, "Sign me up." When I get back from Bariloche, I returned to Tahoe, finished my summer training, and then I headed off to Utah for a winter of competition. When I got there, shortly after that, I was approached by another fellow by the name of Corky Fowler, a legend in his own right. Corky asked me, "Hey, what do you think about doing the Marlboro ski shows?" So I'm thinking to myself a little bit, I'm a pretty good competitor, but I'm not great, and the competition now is fierce. So I had the opportunity to travel the world, do what I love to do, and get paid again? No brainer. I'm hooked again. So 1976, after 6 weeks of rehab, coming back from Europe where I had my first of 7 knee surgeries, which is a big part of freestyle skiing. This time it included some energy on the K2 ski show ramps. And we traveled throughout the western United States and did flips and twists off this crazy ramps onto an airbag. I'm not sure what people appreciated about that, but they certainly did. I'll never forget one show we did was actually in Fargo, North Dakota. And most of the time we did shows, out in the public parking lots for ski resorts and ski shops and stuff. And in Fargo, it happened to be 20 degrees below zero. And sure enough, all the people that were watching were inside the mall with their face pressed to the glass, watching us land on this airbag that I'm telling you, the air was so dense, it was like landing on concrete. But the show must go on, and we did. September of 1976, we opened the Great Western Freestyle Center. We headed back to Steamboat, and with my pal Rusty Taylor, my forever friend, a good buddy, Mike Williams, and myself, we started the Great Western Freestyle Center. We had convinced the Parks and Rec director at the time to let us set up shop. We told him we wanted to construct an artificial ramp. This does get pretty funny. 60 feet high, lined with plywood and a plastic surface called green meanies. We were going to ski down this contraption and land in 200 bales of fluffed up straw. Pretty sure he thought we were crazy, and after thinking about it, I'm sure we were. That next summer, we officially opened. Our first student was a 12-year-old kid with a mouth full of braces and a head full of fuzzy hair. And as it turned out, that kid went on to become a 3-time Olympian, Olympic coach, a Hall of Famer, a great friend of mine, and a legend in aerial acrobatics, Chris Fuzzy Feddersen.
Yeah, awesome.
Another of our early students was Nellie, Nelson Carmichael, again a name you all recognize as a member of the Hall of Fame and the 1992 Olympic bronze medalist. Bobby Aldegari, the Taz, a 12-year-old who dropped by with his dad to see if we could help. As a member, that's the wrong line. He went on to become an Olympic gold medalist, a World Cup gold medalist, an Olympian, and Olympic coach. So I guess we helped him out a little bit. 1983, the Great Western became the first official training camp of the U.S. team, and in 84, I became the first U.S. freestyle ski team coach. The team included athletes, both male and female. Needless to say, I was a bit overwhelmed as the only coach. But I think the good news was they enjoyed having a coach for the first time, and now I know why. My responsibilities included a few other things. As Dan said, like mother, father, trainer, babysitter, travel agent, and sports psychologist, which didn't always leave much time for coaching. But as it was, this band of gypsies were extremely talented, and it made my job as a technical coach very easy. And as a matter of fact, we went on to win 7 Nation Cup titles. Pretty cool. 1988, after many years of lobbying, we finally got our Olympic recognition as a demonstration sport, and the team did very well. Melanie Pelnick won the gold in aerials, Lane Spina, Jan Boer silver in ballet, and both were due in large part to the addition of 2 new coaches, both my brother John in ballet and Wayne Hildebrandt in aerials. 1992, we're moving right along. My first broadcasting gig was CBS, and it just so happened to be with the talented and another of tonight's honorees, Greg Lewis. Not only did I get to make the call, but watch 2 of my athletes, with the help of Goody, a new Olympic coach in moguls, win medals, Donna in gold and Nelson in bronze. My producer at the time told me, do your best to be non-biased in your call. Yeah, okay, right there. So here I am. Several times I was told very loudly in my headset, sit down, get away from the glass, and let them just ski. So I did. It was just way too much emotion that day. I couldn't let it go. 1994, Lillehammer Games, broadcasting again, and this time another medal of the U.S. team skier I spent a little time with, Liz McIntyre, her silver medal. Liz, congrats. Girl, you're the best. And 1998, the Nagano Games, I was fortunate again to call 3 gold medal performances. Eric Burgess and Nikki Stone in aerials, and that all memorable gold medal run of Johnny Mosley in the famous 360 mute grab. So now I'm hooked all over again. 2003, Steamboat Ski Area recognized my achievements by naming the competitive site at the bottom of the hill the Park Smalley Freestyle Complex. That same year, I was inducted into the Colorado Snow Sports Museum, Hall of Fame. Yeah, right. And, I'm sorry, man, I need the prompter here. And that was the final hook. That was until tonight. As you probably noticed by now, I have mentioned the word hooked a lot. For me, it was a blessing to find a passion early on in life. But once I was hooked, everything fell into place. I never planned on a future in skiing, but being hooked, it made it easy. Every time things started to fade, another opportunity came my way. How lucky was I to make a passion into a living? As I look around the room tonight, I'm filled with gratitude, realizing it was all about you guys, the people, the athletes, the families, the lifelong friends, and the entire skiing community. I actually took time to look up the definition of gratitude. And it said, gratitude is an emotion, a sense of happiness and thankfulness in response to a fortunate happenstance. I guess that pretty much says it all for me. So in closing, thanks to everyone who made this trip on my behalf, especially my athletes and those crazy band of gypsies, by nickname only. So hang on, here you go. Fuzzy, the Bogue, Whitboy, Lanebone, Ellie, all the way from Sweden, Wolster, Ogie, Sester, Nellie, Herb, Lagassa, the Prankster, Taz, Hatchet Man, KP, Goody, Pix, Wayno, Lizzie, and JC, Jersey Cream. I love you guys. And of course to my family, my brother John, my right-hand man, my brother Scott's here, my son Tucker, who unfortunately couldn't make it, my special daughter and escort, Sammy, and finally, my most beautiful wife, Lisa. You are my rock star. And finally, I would be remiss if I didn't mention my dad for making that move to snow country in 1968. Thanks, Dad. Thanks to you all.